magnify Him. We glorify You in this place. Oh Lord, we love You, yes we do. We love You, yes we do. We love You, yes we do. Oh, y'all mighty quiet in here. Oh Lord, we love You. Oh Lord, we love You. Oh Lord, we love You, yes we do. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, I give You glory in this place. I give You honor in this place. I give You honor in this place. You're worthy from the rising of the sun to the setting of the same. You're worthy, God. You're worthy, God. You're worthy, God. Come on and give God the praise He's due. Come on and give God the praise He's due. He woke you up this morning. He started you on your way. He gave you the right mind. Come on and serve God. Come on and magnify Him. He's worthy. He's worthy. He's worthy. He's worthy. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Jesus. Hallelujah, Jesus. Hallelujah. 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 Sometimes you just have to encourage yourself. Pastor said that he was in a situation that just made him angry this week. I was there too. And my mother knows that there are times when I get that angry, and my aunt and my mother would say, pray. But I'd be too angry. And I would tell them, don't tell me to pray. Don't do that, because I can't. So that's where I was this week. Then I had to think about it. Just be encouraged. Mom, I heard you say you was feeling heavy in your heart. I want you to be encouraged. All right? Just pray for me. Sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes you have to speak victory during the test. But no matter how you feel, speak the word and you will be healed. Speak over yourself, encourage yourself in the Lord. Sometimes you have to encourage. Oh, sometimes and you will be healed. Speak over yourself. Oh Lord. Sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Sometimes you have to speak victory during the test. Oh, but no matter how you feel, speak the word and you will be healed. Encourage yourself, speak over yourself in the Lord. Has ministered to you. myself. Life has you slow, still you feel that there's nothing else so matter. Speak the word. You will. Come on and speak over yourself. Hallelujah. No matter what the situation is, I serve a true and living God. He'll hold you. He'll hold you late in the midnight hour. Oh, I tell you, stand there and be encouraged. Don't throw in the towel. Whoa, yeah. Be encouraged. Be encouraged in the Lord. Yeah. I'm encouraged. Hallelujah. I'm encouraged. Hallelujah, Jesus. I'm gonna run on to see what the end will be. I'm not worried about tomorrow. I know who holds my hand. Oh, yeah. I'm encouraged. Oh, Lord. Hallelujah. I'm encouraged. Yeah. Thank you, God. You're wonderful. Thank you, God. You've been better to me than I've been to myself. I'm encouraged. Yes, I am. I'm encouraged. Oh, speak over yourselves. Encourage yourself in the Lord. Hallelujah, Jesus. Come on and give God some praise in here. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Happiness away. And I have to encourage myself in the Lord. Amen. We thank God for you. Thank God for the opportunity to stand before you. On last week, I could not be here. It was Father's Day, and I had to be somewhere else. And I thought about my father. And I don't normally share all my testimonies, but it is one that I want to share. It reminds me of my father. He's been dead and gone, I guess, 20 years now. And so it's one that involves a miracle. I believe in miracles.
Amen.
I believe in blessings, but the way this miracle went down, I usually didn't share it as often. And Pastor Nelson and this work with the organizing, they tell people everybody has a story. And it's my story, but it's one that I kind of didn't share, but I will share that. Again, the way the miracle went down, I do believe in miracles, but you know, God said that in Hebrews that his way of doing miracles today will be different. And so, you know, doesn't mean that he can't do it. It just means that he would do it a little different. In other words, we heard about the talking donkey, Balaam's donkey. And you know, but we haven't seen that since then. It doesn't mean that God cannot do it. It just says that's just not his way of doing miracles today. But anyway, I want to talk about one of those that happened with me. And so turn with me to 1 Kings chapter 8. 1 Kings chapter 8. We'll read just a few verses. A seemingly unfulfilled dream. A homeboy translation would be turning their incomplete bucket list into a bucket full of praise. Talk about a father's unfulfilled dream. Dreaming is a good thing. Dreaming is a good thing. We tell our young people to dream. We come up with fancy themes, dare to dream, turning realities into dream. And even Martin Luther King, we say, well, keep the dream, keeping the dream alive. It's so alive. So dreaming is a good thing. Now there's a difference between a fantasy and a dream, right? But a dream is when, something that you even, and it's good not only to dream, but put some plans to that dream. My daughter's like, well, I'm dreaming of this and I'm dreaming of that. I said, well, you're not going to get there sitting on your rear end, So you could dream, but you're going to have to put some plans to that dream. I said, if you don't put plans to it, it's just a fantasy, right? And so sometimes you have to give up, or not give up, but you have to recognize that some dreams is not going to be fulfilled. I had to wake up and realize I just was not going to marry Beyonce. I had to face the fact that I was not going to be a professional football player. I was still holding on to it at age 20 and 25 and ignorant enough to believe it at 30. But sooner or later I had to face the fact that, I just was not going to be a prize fighter. I was, ladies, you just have to give up on the dream that you're not marrying Denzel, right? And so some dreams will be unfulfilled. Now we keep telling our kids it's good to dream, and we're saying, no, it's good to dream, but we face the fact that some dreams will be unfulfilled. And I thought about what happened in my life, in my story. And it turns out to be my father's story, and we share the story. Pastors say, Reverend, everybody has their own story, but every once in a while, a good part of my story was my father's story. So let me just share some of his story. My father was born in Plantersville, Alabama, about 20 miles outside of Selma. Little country town, sawmill town, and very little town, and everybody worked in the sawmill. And my father loved education. He loved school. His dream was to educate folks. And he loved school more than anything on earth. But he was one of the oldest of the family of 7. Poor family. And his parents made him drop out of school at age 13 to make him help cover the bills at home, because it was a poor family, country family, down there in the hills. And it hurt him. He was hurt. His one dream, the only dream that he had, was to be an educator. His parents made him drop out of school that he may take care of the rest of the family. And he did that, eventually moved to Cincinnati, still a teenager, and became a machinist. And little by little, he got in his old pickup truck, drove back down before I-65 before that ground was laid, country roads, as a teenager, and went and got all his family members, one by one, and brought his parents and his brothers and his sisters to Cincinnati, because he loved his family, loved his family, loved his parents. And he became a machinist, a decent machinist, and his lack of education began to hurt him, and he struggled with his paycheck stuff. He struggled with it because they paid him overtime, but he had to make so many parts in a shift. And they said, for every part that you make over the quota, 50 pieces, for every part you make at time and a half, we'll give you 37 cents per part up to the first 10, 15 parts. And And after the first hour, we'll give you double time, and we'll give you 50 cents over the 37 cent, and for these many parts. And what looked like normal math was complicated to him. He couldn't understand his pay stub, but he was convinced that they were cheating him, and it hurt him. And he would go behind the door, and I'm gonna try not to lose it. And he would complain to my mother that he says, they cheated me. He said, I know they cheated me. And he couldn't understand why someone white would cheat a grown man. But he knew they were cheating him. And it was, man, geez, it's about to tell the story. And it was the first time that it was the first time I saw him cry, because he just didn't do that. And him discussing his check with my mother was grown folks' business. And so I'm gonna get this together. We're gonna get to the tax. And so it was grown folks' business. But this particular day, I saw my father cry for the first time. And I began to feel his pain. And I began to hurt. And I was young enough, too young to fight for him. And he was convinced they were cheating him. And I won't go into it, but long story short, turned out they weren't cheating him. And so somebody was, anyway, they were cheating him right there in the company. And so, but it's the first time I saw him cry, and he turned around and he knew that he couldn't figure out the math. And it was the one thing that he had dreamed of. And so he says, Ricky, he says, whatever you do, he said, I want you to get your education and learn the math. And it would make a great story for my story if I told you that I decided right then and there I was going to be the best mathematician I could be. That would make a great story if that was the truth. But I didn't make that vow. I was decent in math, and I just didn't make that vow. But it seemed like, in comes the miracle, from that point on, math just got easier and easier and easier for me. You know, I mean, it just got ridiculously easy. And they had to put me in special classes, and didn't have a class with other people. It was like 2, 3 of us. And we sat, what, looking back, looked like homeschool, but at school. And they just kept throwing all this stuff at me and this other guy. And it was as easy as 2 plus 2. So, what was hard for the average person, trigonometry, calculus, all that stuff that people were taking in the 9th and 10th and 11th, I was just soaking it in 7th and 8th, and I continued Calc 1, and most people make it to Calc 2. I took Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, I think all in 1 year, and Procter & Gamble gave me a scholarship and went right out to work and made me wear white shirts, which is why I dress the way I dress today, because at age 18, I've been in corporate America ever since. And went out to University of Cincinnati and then to Tuskegee University and just smoked everybody in all the math and all the sciences. It just came. It was like 2 plus 2. People almost got in fights and finals when people were up to 2 in the morning. I was playing Isley Brothers and shooting hoops. I struggled with the grammar, but this math and the science, it was just there.
Praise God.
And And I did my little share of devilment too, but that's another sermon on sin for another day. Amen. Amen. So we're not talking about that today. And so it wasn't until 25 years after that I saw my father cry for the second time in my life. And it was at his retirement. We had our own little private family retirement and had the back room of the restaurant, and he looked and saw all his offspring and how we did get our education. And he was telling me how much he made, and I realized that when I finished college and entered into the workforce, I was already making more money than he had ever made in all of his years of working. His best salary and all his overtime and my entry level was already that. And I sharing that, wasn't bragging, he was proud of me. And he looked at me, he says, "You learned the math." And it was then that I realized that God had fulfilled his dream in me. What God had done for him was through me. And what God had done in me was for him. And that was when I made my vow. I thought about the psalmist that says, "What shall I render unto the Lord for all his benefits?" God let me know that it wasn't you. You didn't do it. But I did something for you that I don't normally do. And he says, "So what are you going to do with that gift?" And David, I don't know if it was David, he says, "What shall I render unto the Lord for all his benefits?" And God did something for me that, and in essence, my father's bucket list, which seemed like it was unfulfilled. It was, but yet he felt like he got something greater in all his children. And I picked up 3 things that I vowed that I would try to give to my daughters. And that was not be ashamed to let them see me cry.
Amen.
That was let them see the human side of me.
That's right.
I won't go into all the details, but I saw my father totally depend on God. Because it turns out his boss man was cheating him, and God sure enough took a crooked stick and hit a straight lick and took care of that issue. It took a few years to happen, but God took care of that issue. And then I saw my father make the ultimate sacrifice. He didn't never say it, but I just know if he were to say it, he would say, "You know, if I had to do it all over again, I would sacrifice again." Because I loved my family just that much. I loved my parents just that much that I was willing to give up that dream just to make sure they got their dream. And so he never said it, but I could just see those 3 things. It was his human side, his total dependency on the Lord, and willing to sacrifice. And I did that at GE. I reached a point that I had to look at executive band, which would have been hard to make, or sacrifice that and look after and make sure my daughters got a good footing on life. And so I got that from my father. And anyway, so in our text, y'all thought I forgot about the text. I'm back.
Right.
The me is back. I barely made it through that. The me is back. In our text, 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 17. David wanted to build the temple more than anything on earth. You know, before they used to have the Ark of the Covenant, feels good being back. They wanted to build the, they had the Ark of the Covenant, and they used to put that in little tents and pack it up and move it around. He said, I'm living like a king, and God's the Ark. He says, God needs a temple. And so he says, I have to build a temple. And David began, he asked God, he says, can I start the plans? God said, go on, get the plans together. And David began to lay out the blueprints, and he wrote most of the Psalms, all the hymnals, all the responsive reading. He's going to do all this stuff to build God a holy temple. He dreamed about that more than anybody on earth. And then God said, sorry, David, you can't do it. David had a little sin on his hand. He had that little fling with Bathsheba. And even he was a horrible father with his son Absalom. And he had messed up. And he repented. And God forgave him of his sins. God will forgive you. God forgave him. He said, but there's still a consequence. He said, I'm going to let you build the plans, but I want your son to finish. And they kind of, I was thinking that must have upset David. But then I thought about the fact that if you were to go through the Psalms, you would see David talking about the temple more than anybody. Oh, he heard me out of his holy hill. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills. I said, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go unto the house of the Lord. He says, when my mother and father forsake me, the Lord shall take me up, or he shall hide me, for he's my hiding place. Talking about the cathedral, talking about the cave. David talked about the temple more than anybody in the Bible. And then it occurred to me that he never saw it. He never saw it. Yet he talked about, go through the Psalms, go through there. David talked about the temple more than anybody, and yet he never saw the temple. And I asked God, why is that? And God said, because David studied the blueprints. David studied those blueprints so much that what he saw was greater than what Solomon really built. David, and we got a blueprint, just in case I forget. And if we just studied. So anyway, David went over the blueprints over and over, better than any virtual reality glasses that Google could ever make. David could just see it. He just walked the halls of it. He looked at it, and he got satisfaction. He got experience with God just from studying the blueprints. Never had the dream, but yet from studying God's words, for studying the blueprint, he can still experience God. David saw what David saw was better than what Solomon ever built. You remember, you've seen playwriters, script writers, whatever, they would write movies and great big old manuscripts, and they'll give it to another writer, say, tell me what you think of this. And they would study it, they will go through the scenes because it would be so vivid, because they are a studied writer, and they would get to the end, tears in their eyes, and they would say, ooh, that was a good movie. The movie was not made, but because they've studied all that stuff in detail, they could just see it. They could see the chase scenes. They could see the love-making scenes. They got hot flashes when they got to certain pages, and they could just feel the heat. Oh, yeah. Why? Because they were an experienced writer, and they could just see the movie, even though the movie had not been made. Wow. Even Beethoven. He had lost his hearing by the time he finished his last piece. Couldn't even hear. But he studied his God. Because he knew so much about his God, his music. Because he studied music for so long, when he wrote a note on the paper, he tied it in with a C and maybe erased it, changed it to a sharp, and put two notes together. He was, oh, don't that sound nice? And yet he couldn't hear. But because he knew music, what he saw on paper was probably better than Mozart can aid the temple. But it looked like he had an unfulfilled dream. But he says, Solomon, he says, I walked it. He said, I've been in the sanctuary. It's beautiful. Yeah. I walked the halls. It's nice. I've been to the upper room. It's nice in there, Solomon. It looks beautiful. And David was getting the satisfaction in what looked like an unfulfilled dream, knowing that God was going to take that and finish that through his son. And I'm just sharing with my reflection on what happened with me and my father. He had an unfulfilled dream, what looked like an unfulfilled dream, and he says, you know what? He said, it's been fulfilled. 10 times over.
Yeah.
What looked like an incomplete bucket list is just a bucket of praise. And so that's what happened with David and Solomon. And I think about those things, my father, that I saw. I told you those top 3 things: humbleness, total dependency, and sacrifice. And then I think about what Paul said. He says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. What were they? Happened to be those 3 things. He said, who humbled himself and became obedient, sacrificed his glory. He didn't have to do it. And Jesus, if he says, if I had to do it all over again, I'll do it all over again.
Yes.
Why? Because I love the church. Obedience, sacrifice, total dependency on the Lord. I think about on the cross, Jesus says, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Got to give you at least one Greek word. Commend. Tiffany in the Greek means to deposit for safekeeping. And Jesus says paratiffany. You know, he's I placed my spirit back alongside the doctor and there, if you want to go back. And he says total dependency. I'm gonna deposit my spirit. I'm putting my trust back into your hands for total dependency. And that's what my father did. He just had total dependency. You're going to have total dependency on the Lord.
Yes.
I think about when I was pastoring Children's Church at New Hope. This little girl, her parents brought her a harmonica and let her bring it to church. And we're trying to have church service, and you hear, and on one side it was being annoying, on the other side it was kind of cute, but I didn't want her to see me smiling, And I went over to her. I said, now you're gonna have to put that up. You don't want me to go and call Papa, do you? She said, oh no. I said, you're gonna have to put that harmonica up. And so I went back to the pulpit, and a few minutes later, I heard it again. And so, right before I got up to preach, she comes up to me, and she hands me the harmonica. And she says, will you keep this? I says, don't you have pockets? She says, I think you can keep it better than me. And from a child, that's total dependency. I want you to keep this because I think you can keep it. And I realized that that's what God wants us to say to him. Like, Lord, you're going to have to I think you can keep me better than me.
Yes.
Because if I take care of me, I might have to cut somebody if they don't pay me. Lord, you're going to have to keep me because if I don't believe I can keep myself as well as you can. Total dependency is what my father did. Total dependency is what Jesus had. And so I'm trying to close, but I thank God for my father. And I realized that what God had done in me was his dream. Because I'm telling you, I bring my report cards in there. You won't see F's and D's. I did graduate with a 3.85, but you see me struggling in grammar, and I'm telling you, the math, God just did something in me. My father, his grammar, my grammar ain't great. My grammar's not that great. My father's grammar, 10 times worse. He could not spell derive if you paid him, let alone derive second order equation. But he did derive that Jehovah Jireh would be his provider. He did derive that.
Yes, sir.
He did derive that Jehovah Shalom would be there in his darkest hour, and Jehovah Nissi would show up in his final hour. He knew that if A equals B and B equals C, that surely he could see that Jehovah Sikkenu would be right there. He could see a few things. He didn't know grammar very well, but he did. He says, I don't know algebra, but I declare, Ricky, if you just let Jesus equal X and plug him into any equation, he will solve any problem in your life.
All right.
And so, God told Solomon, he says, David did well to dream.
Yes.
And I'm going to bless David that he did go through the plans. And we have the plans.
Yes.
If we just study the plans, we could still experience God. Even what seemingly might look like an unfulfilled dream. You just might have to alter the dream, and God will fulfill your dreams. He did it for my father, and that's my story, and I made it through it. Amen. God bless you. That's fine. I didn't think I was going to make it.
That's all right.
And so I have, and I don't always share references. Everybody has a story, but you have to share it. And I told him yes, but I kind of half lied because some stories I just wouldn't share because it's hard to make it through them. Amen. But I do share them with my daughters. Amen. God bless you. So what did we learn? What we learned real quick? We learned that we have a story. We learned that we can have what seemingly have unfulfilled dreams, and that David messed up, but he repented. God forgave him, and God blessed him through his offspring. What else did we learn? And that the three greatest things that I saw of my father just happened to be those demonstrated in Jesus Christ. Your human side, your sacrifice, and your total dependency on God. God bless you. Well, y'all know what we do. Amen. We huddle up and talk about it. I do cry easy. All right. So we give you a few minutes. Maybe something else I said. Y'all also know I'm a manuscript preacher. I felt naked without my nose.
All right.
And so we blame that on the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. God bless you.